Hello everyone, today I want to share with you my African violet potting soil. Most of my subscribers are asking me how I make my African violet potting soil. Today I decided to make video for you all and show you how I make my African violet potting soil. For that we need perlite, vermiculite and potting soil, peat moss. We need peat moss, but I use this bag of potting soil. It's ready. It has vermiculite, not vermiculite, it has perlite inside and some fertilizers. But if you cannot find this potting mix from your local stores, you can buy peat moss and use that. This bag, I like this potting soil because it's a huge bag and you pay for that $14, and sometimes it's on sale on Menards. You can find this potting mix from Menards, and this is a huge bag. It's equal with other potting mixes which are in small bags, and it's equal for 6 of them. Yeah, every year I buy this bag and it's enough for my plants. I use this potting mix for all of my plants. I mix something, but this is the main ingredient which I use in my plants. The link will be in the description below, and here I have coconut cocoa peat here. But in my state I couldn't find any cocoa peat from the local stores, but when we were in Florida I bought this cocoa peat, and not recently I found this seed starting mix from Menards also, and this is very good potting mix. You put in a bucket and you put hot water, and this small thing will expand and it will fill your bucket, and that way you can have full of this bag of potting mix from this small one. And you can see that it's from coconut, and here it's also picture showing how to make it. And I have ready one already. I prepared it, and I put in this cup. You see this? I use for my African wild potting soil. And let's start. I take 1 part of perlite. You see, 1 part of perlite and 1 part of vermiculite. This, if you cannot find this is not necessary, but if you add this, it's good because vermiculite keeps moisture in it, and when the plant needs, it gives to the plant. That's why it makes the soil floppy, and that's why I add this. And I add from this PROMIX 1 cup, and I add cocoa peat, and I mix them all. You see this? And I mix them all, and when I need, I use for planting my African violets. Why I don't use African violet potting soil? Because once I bought African violet potting soil and I planted my violets in that soil, and I didn't like, because when it gets dry, the soil gets dry, it doesn't take the water. When you water your violet, for example this cup, it's African violet in it, and you water your violet and the water doesn't absorb in the soil, the soil doesn't absorb the water, and water goes down directly, and it doesn't take the moisture, it doesn't take any water, and it has too much piece of wood inside, and it's very heavy, that soil. That's why I never buy African violet potting soil. Before, when I started growing violets, I used compost. I planted my violets in a compost which I make myself in my backyard, and later when it's winter, it's hard to get compost, and that way I started mixing all these ingredients and planting my violets. And now I like this soil, which is which consists of these ingredients. And you see, when I put some water, I will show you. If I put water in this soil, you will see how it fast absorbs the water. See how the water goes easily in the soil, even though this soil is so dry. When you take this PROMIX peat moss and you try to put water for the first time, when it's so dry, the water doesn't go, the soil doesn't absorb water easily. The water stays on top of the pot for some time, and then slowly that peat moss absorbs the water. But when you mix this cocoa peat with this potting soil, you see how water goes very fast. Even the soil, when it gets super dry, you will not have hard time to water your violets, and they easily get moisture, and the soil gets equally moist even though you put little bit water. And I will show you what will happen when I put some water, and I will mix again when it's moist. Now see how it's easily becoming equally moist. See the soil, very easy. And I will show you the soil. See, I didn't mix it too much, and the soil, how it is fluffy. You see, this kind of soil African violets love, and it never becomes compacted. Even I am squeezing it here, and see how it easily becomes loose. You see that? And this kind of soil we have to use for our African violets. And if you I will show you something. Let me find, okay, here. If you use just this peat moss and perlite, you will have this kind of soil later on when your plant starts growing in the soil, its roots. And this soil is with roots already. I took it from one pot. I found this soil to show you. And when it gets dry like this, and if you don't add cocoa peat in it, I will show you how it takes water. It absorbs water. You see, it's very hard. It doesn't go inside the soil, the water. You see how it's going down. The soil doesn't want to take water. Water is not going in the soil. Instead, it's going to the sides. Even I am putting slowly this water, and you see how the water going down, and this kind of compacted soil we don't want for our African violets. It's not good soil for the African violets, even though this soil has everything. You see the perlite and everything, peat moss, and that's why if you add cocoa peat, it takes water very fast. And I will show you my plants which I planted in this soil which I made. I will show you now. First I want to show you how the inside of the soil look like. You see, I'm opening it and there is no water in the soil. And can you imagine when there is an African violet, growing African violet, and the soil is so dry, and you put water, you think that it drank water, you gave it water, but the inside of the plant where the roots are is still dry. That's why it's better if we put some cocoa peat in the soil. And let me show you other plants, my plants which I planted in this soil now. Here are some of my plants which I planted in this soil. They are sitting in that kind of soil for a long time, and I used that soil even for weak watering here. And you see how this violet is growing, and I will show you the soil. Here you see the piece of cocoa peat here, and you see here, this is cocoa peat, and I am showing you the soil of my violet which is sitting in the weak watering. And here I have my calancho, and I will show you when I water. This is very dry, you see the soil is very dry, and I will show you how it will take the water. Even it's so dry, it will take immediately the water when I put. You see how water is going down? You see? The soil is absorbing water very fast. It doesn't sit on top of the soil. Usually when we put, I showed you in that case, the water sits on top of the soil and it doesn't go inside the soil. But here I will open and show you. You see how it's moist inside, equally moist, and it went down the water which I put. See how this soil is good for our plants. Even I planted my clematis which I propagated last year, and even I made video about that clematis I propagated, and one of them I planted in my backyard. It was Diamantina clematis. It was so beautiful clematis. And see, the other second one is still in this pot. I didn't plant it outside. It was small, this much it was, and the rest it grew in the house. See, it wants to bloom even. Today is February 17th, and I have buds here, and it's very long. I don't know how long it is. Maybe 1 meter. And I will show you when I water how this plant soil takes water. See how fast is going this water going into the soil immediately. It doesn't sit on top of the soil. It immediately goes down where you put. And that's why I like this potting mixture. And here, I planted my this violet, which I show you in my every video almost. And this blooms, constantly blooms. This violet never stops blooming. If you want some blooming violet, you can buy this one. Here is the name. And it's very easy to care. And let me show you the soil. It is sitting in this soil also, and most of my violets, but I brought here a couple of them. I don't need to show you all of my violets. Here you see the cocoa peat here in the soil. This things, it's cocoa peat. And I will put some water in the soil, and you will see how water goes down very fast. You see this? How it's going down? Immediately it's going down. You see how good soil is this? And I showed you which is in weak watering and which is not in weak. I water it myself, and you see how they are both blooming. This didn't open its buds. It's full of buds. I don't know, hundreds of buds here. And I have another ones there. You see, this violet has very beautiful flowers, and it constantly blooms. It never stops. Most of time violets, they grow their new leaves, and then with the new leaves they grow their buds, and then they stop blooming, and after some time they start growing again new leaves, and this way they bloom again. But this violet, even though it doesn't grow new leaves, it grows new spikes, flower spikes. That's why if you like this violet, you can buy this kind of violet which blooms constantly. And I was talking about this potting soil, which I bought only one time, and I stopped buying African violet potting soil after that. It was my first and last potting soil, African violet potting soil. In this soil, the plant roots breathe well, and this is very good for aeration and for the drainage. The water doesn't sit here, but this soil stays moist. It doesn't get soggy. You see, everything is in here, and how it's light, this soil. You see how it's fluffy. And I hope you found this video beneficial, you learned something. And if you are new in my channel, please subscribe for more videos. Happy gardening. Thank you for watching. Bye.